With this video, we're trying to do one thing. We are trying to provide you with enough information to make you feel completely comfortable and super excited about experiencing the TCS Sydney Marathon. Hey runners, and welcome to our deep dive into the TCS Sydney Marathon. My name is Letty Lundquist from Marathon Media. My YouTube channel is Letty Runs, and I also host the Marathon Running podcast every week. So feel free to check those out. To help you get prepared, I'm thrilled to introduce 6 all-star guests in this video. Race director Wayne Larden, running expert Nathan Popes from ASICS, Benjamin Lucas, the head coach of the Sydney Marathon, Sydney Marathon pacer Damon Lynch, Ben Rocke, an incredible ambassador of the Sydney Marathon who also hosts an amazing Facebook group that you guys are going to have to check out, and a vital member of Sydney's marathon logistical team, Michael Young. What an incredible lineup of guests that you're going to hear from. And let's hop right into that. Let's start with words from race director Wayne Larden. So we are absolutely thrilled today to be joined by race director Wayne Larden. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us. We're so lucky to have you on because we know it's invaluable to hear from you directly as the race director. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Letty.
Maybe you can tell us what it's like right now, or what you're going through right now being a race director for this huge event.
Yeah, it's sort of 5 weeks out or close to 5 weeks out now. So it's sort of crunch time on a lot of important things, final documentation and plans sort of having been submitted and finalising everything sort of in preparation for everyone to arrive. So it's pretty hectic at the moment, as you could imagine. Everyone heads down, bum up, working long hours. But no, there's a good buzz in the office. Everyone's excited, for, race weekend and race week. So I'm feeling pretty confident with things. But, as always, it's events, outdoor events. Something will pop up that will be a challenge that we'll need to solve before everyone gets here, I'm sure. But we're used to that. So, excited. Anticipation of race week approaching fast.
All right, so the anticipation is running high. And tell me, please, what is your number one message for all these international runners that are going to be coming from all over the world?
Look, I think the important things on race week is to read information that we send to runners, especially read information about race day on how to get to the start, where you need to go, where and when Expo is, ask questions at Expo, prepare well, hydrate, get some good sleep in. Just don't stress, don't waste nervous energy. It's going to be a great day. Just come and enjoy the race, enjoy Sydney and have a good time.
What is it that you most wish that they'll remember your race with?
I'm pretty confident that people walk away remembering very fondly the city of Sydney. It's a beautiful city. I think people will be surprised at how beautiful and interesting the course is. It's a really lovely course that takes people right through all of the landmarks of Sydney on their journey to that beautiful finish at the Sydney Opera House. People will remember how friendly the Sydney-siders and Australians are. We like a chat, so if you go out to a bar, don't hold back. People will have a chat with you. So get to know some of the local people. Will walk away with the feeling that was probably one of the most fun ones and the most fun Abbott World Marathon major they've been to. So these are the sorts of experiences that we want people to have and remember. Share your experiences and tell all your friends about it.
Perfect. And last but not least, what is your must-see for a tourist in your city?
There's so many. I mean, in Sydney, you've got Taronga Zoo, you've got Manly Beach, you've got Bondi Beach, you've got the city itself. It's an amazing number of really cool restaurants in Sydney. If you've got a bit of time, I'd recommend heading up to the Hunter Valley wine region after the race for a few days of relaxation. It's only a couple of hours north. If you've got a little bit less time, you can head out west to the Blue Mountains and see the Three Sisters. So there's lots and lots of things to do. Like, honestly, just depends how much time you've got. We'll have guides too on things you can go and enjoy. Bridge climb, a harbour motorboat sort of cruise, a harbour cruise at sunset is a beautiful thing to do. 5 p.m. harbour cruise from Darling Harbour, they're lovely things to do with your family and friends. There's just so much. I could go on forever.
Perfect. So we'll jot those down. That's what I'm going to be doing when I'm recording this podcast. I'm going to ask everybody for their number one favorite thing. So the wine region sticks out from you. So I'm going to have that. And so we'll look forward to seeing you. Are you going to be at the starting line?
I'll be sort of everywhere, but yeah, I'll be definitely be at the starting line. I'll be at the finish line. I'll be somewhere out on the course having a look at how things are unfolding there. We got a really amazing finishers medal this year, which we're going to do an unveil. So I'm looking forward to seeing lots and lots of people having those hanging around their neck on race day and wearing those around for Medal Monday. I'm just so excited to welcome everyone to our beautiful city and just deliver our first Abbott World Marathon Major and have everyone really positive and happy and, wanting to come back.
All right. Thank you, Wayne, for your warm welcome and your excitement for international runners. I'm already confident that the participants will fondly remember Sydney's beautiful city, its friendly locals, and truly have a fun major experience. We're certainly off to a great start with some takeaways directly from Race Director. So read all the race information carefully, prepare well, hydrate, sleep, and most importantly, do not stress, just come and enjoy the race in Sydney. Now let's continue with some essential tips to get you over to Sydney without any major hiccups. We're talking about some very important pre-travel essentials. First up, travel requirements, specifically visas. You'll definitely want to know that most international visitors like us will need visas for Australia. My biggest piece of advice here is to head straight to the official Australian Department of Home Affairs website. I'm going to link this down below, and that's where you'll find most up-to-date information tailored to your nationality, whether you need an ETA for those eligible countries or a full tourist visa. And please, for peace of mind, apply well in advance. Trust me on this one. And now I will tell you the process that worked out for me. I applied online with the iPhone app called Australian ETA. I come from the United States, and I believe the fee was about $20 Australian. My application was approved super quickly, and I want to say it was less than 10 minutes, but that's not to say that they don't have time to process cases. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes weeks, so be smart about it. Definitely now is the time to do it. And the approval came via email, so that was that. Now, for customs and entry regulations, Australia has some very strict biosecurity laws. That means you must declare all foods, plants, or animal products before coming. To avoid any issues, I always recommend checking your Australian Border Force website beforehand and any prohibited, restricted items. Don't make the mistake of hopping onto YouTube. They're fun to watch, but if you are the type of person that gets nervous about that, just don't watch them. Next up, I'm going to talk about some essential travel gear. I'm not going to give you guys a big list because most of the stuff is very personal, but one thing that people have the tendency to forget is to bring an outlet converter. Australia uses type 1 power outlets. So those are the ones with the 3 flat pins. Those operate on 230 voltage. So definitely bring this universal travel adapter if you don't have it. I purchased this one on Amazon. I think it was around $10. And what I like about it is that it has USB plugs as well as USB-C plugs and a regular plug. Well, 3 regular plugs on the sides. I'm going to link that in the show notes below. So that way you don't have to do any research. If you just want to go grab it, it'll be there for you. And since we're talking about electronics, let's talk about your phone plan. Make sure that your phone plan either includes universal texting or calling or an international plan, or be aware if it doesn't, so you can get yourself an eSIM so you're not completely stranded. I know that you can limit the amount of talking that you do on the phone and you can do WhatsApp messages and WhatsApp calls. However, what I always find very helpful is when I'm traveling abroad, using the maps. If you don't have data to use on your phone, you can't use the maps and you'll get lost, and that's the end of that. So make sure that you plan for that. Kind of along the same lines, your bank cards. When it comes to banking, let your bank know that you'll be traveling so your cards won't get flagged for suspicious activity and then you can't use your payments card. I understand that it's automatic with a lot of the banks nowadays, but some of them will send you texts to verify that you are making whatever purchase it is that you're doing outside of the country, and then depending on your phone plan, again, you might have trouble being able to authorize that. So just make sure that your cards work. Last, when it comes to travel essentials, I want to give you my pro tip: pack layers. And we'll be talking about the weather all spread out in this video/podcast. So there'll be plenty of that. But all I'm going to say here is maybe bring a little fleece or a layer or maybe a packable puffy to stay warm. Also, since you're running a marathon, make sure that you bring some throwaway clothing to the starting line. I'm sure they'll be donating whatever clothing is discarded to charity like they usually do. So just do that. Also, as for packing, be sure to pop your running shoes in your carry-on. Not only do that for peace of mind, but also because your luggage might get lost. My luggage was lost 2 years in a row traveling to Germany, and that is really frustrating, but at least I didn't have a marathon to run the weekend of my running shoes not showing up with the luggage. Now let's dive into where to stay when you're in Australia. And obviously, if you're watching this for this year's marathon, then probably you have already booked. But if you are running the marathon in the future, I have talked to a ton of Australians over the last few weeks. And just to summarize that, most people recommend to stay in the heart of Sydney, in the Central Business District or CBD. Areas as Circular Quay or the Rocks are absolutely perfect as well. The reason being that it's incredibly convenient for all your race logistics, the Expo, and easy access for both the start and the finish lines. Plus, you'll be in the thick of all the post-race celebration. And while that might be slightly more expensive, the sheer convenience and the overall experience, especially for us international travelers, are totally worth it. Also, you might want to book these hotels early because they do have a tendency to fill up during marathon week, just like all the other majors. Now, once you land, how do you get to your hotel? I have learned, and you will learn too, that Sydney is very navigable when it comes to public transportation. I personally swear by apps like Rome to Rio for planning trips using public transportation. And of course, there's always Google Map that'll help you get around. Now let's talk about the events, because Sydney Marathon Weekend isn't just about the marathon. There's actually 3 incredible events that cater to runners of all distances. Kicking off the weekend on Saturday, we have the 5K mini marathon. That fun run starts at 7:30 a.m. on Macquarie Street in the Sydney CBD with a starting line cutoff of 8:10 a.m. Participants finish at the iconic Opera House, and the course time cutoff this year is 1 hour and 10 minutes. And the good news when it comes to this race is that it is still not sold out, so you can still register to be part of this excitement. Then on Sunday, you have 2 events. On Sunday, August 31st, 2025, you have the 10K, which begins at 8:45 from Miller Street in North Sydney with a start line cutoff at 9 a.m. This race finishes at the Conservatorium of Music, and it has a course cutoff time of 1 hour and 40 minutes or 10:40 a.m. And of course, then there is a city marathon, the main event, the full 42.195 kilometers. Starting time for this race is going to be 6:15 a.m. for the elite wheelchairs and 6:30 a.m. for the main marathon runners. The location in the course, we're going to hop into its own different segment, so let's save that for later. All right, now moving on to our next topic, the elite field. The TCS Sydney Marathon is set to feature an exceptionally strong elite field, making it a historic event for Australia. And trust me, we are obsessed with elite runners and we'll be covering it extensively. So stay tuned for that and for more information and videos from us in the future. Now, when it comes to the men's elite field, the director of the Sydney Marathon, Larden, has described this marathon as not just star-studdedly fast, but exceptionally deep. The field is headlined by the greatest marathoner in history, Eliud Kipchoge. And in total, there's going to be 19 athletes in the men's field that have run under 2 hours and 7 minutes. This ties the 23 and 24 Tokyo for the most sub-2:07 runners in a major marathon since the Tokyo Olympics. Australia is also well represented by national record holder Brad Robbins, whose PB is a 2:07:31, and Olympian Liam Adams, whose PB is a 2:08:39. So that will be amazing to finally see some Australian runners. As for the women's field, this field is equally impressive, featuring a global array. Leading the charge are 2 of the fastest women in marathon history, which is Sifan Hassan from the Netherlands, whose PB is a 2:13:44, and Bridget Kosgei from Kenya, who has a 2:14:04 personal record. Australia's local talent is also prominent, with 5 Australian athletes led by Jessica Stenson, who ran a 2:22:56 personal best, and Lisa Waitman, whose PB is a 2:23:15. Amazing, right? I cannot wait to see what happens during this race. All right, so moving on, let's hop into our first interview to get you some insights, and we're going to do that by getting an invaluable perspective from Ben Rocke, a TCS Sydney Marathon ambassador and the founder of a fantastic Facebook group for runners called TCS Sydney Marathon Support Group, which we're going to link in the show notes. This group is absolutely amazing, special, and very helpful. So as I said, I'll talk to Ben and he'll share some crucial insights to help you navigate and enjoy the TCS Sydney Marathon. All right, so I'm on here with Ben Rocke, who is an ambassador of the TCS Sydney Marathon and the Rocke of his Facebook group that is super helpful with tons of followers now. So if you guys are not on Facebook yet, that's a super helpful Facebook group to follow. I'm going to link that in our show notes. But Ben, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to just start diving into all of this, right? Because I mean, you're an expert, right? You are Australian, so you live there, you're local, and you've just been so helpful. And with that, let's talk about maybe a few questions, because I'm assuming at this point, everybody is a month away from this marathon and we have sorted out where we're staying. But for future listeners, where are the best places to stay?
Sure. So if you look at a map of Sydney, essentially Sydney has got a massive harbour in the middle. So of the city. So we're sort of situated around the harbour. So it means that we have lots of water. We have beachfronts. So you probably can't go too wrong with sort of anywhere in Sydney. Like for the marathon specifically, you want to be situated near the Sydney Metro line, because the Metro is our underground sort of rail system that will get you to the start line. So there is 2 stations near the starting line. So you want to sort of be near that line to basically navigate to the starting area. But in terms of just a general nice trip, you've got some beautiful beaches down in Bondi. We have one in Manly. That's quite nice. There's Cronulla further down south. So Sydney is blessed with beautiful coastline, beautiful beaches, and you can't really go too wrong. You're not really too far away. Even if you pick somewhere out away, then essentially there's lots of different options there. It's just not too far to get to the beach.
Perfect. But when it comes to transportation, how easy is that for anyone to do in Sydney, particularly heading to the Expo, etc.?
Yeah, so Sydney public transport is probably one of the best in Australia, I would say. So like every state of Australia is made up of states like the United States. So each of the public transport systems in each of the states is different because they're run by the actual state. So essentially in New South Wales, we can use the credit card to tap on and tap off of public transport. So we have buses, we have trains, we have the metro, we have ferries here, we have the light rail as well. There's several light rail networks. So essentially you can use your same credit card, even American Express cards, on that. We also have an Opal card, which is a public transport card. So for concessions, like for children, they will need to basically get an Opal card for that. Otherwise, if you're using a credit card, it will charge you the full adult fare for that. But for Marathon Day, you actually get free public transport. So essentially, you don't have to worry about tapping on and tapping off your card. That's one less thing that you won't have to carry with you, because you'll basically get free transport on that day. In terms of getting to the Expo, it's very centrally located. It's at the International Convention Centre. It's within walking distance of essentially the CBD. So for most places in the CBD, you can actually walk to the Expo. For many people that do walk, you'll be walking through Chinatown, which is a really great district for a lot of food and culture. So, and they have a market there as well for lots of cheap souvenirs in that particular district. But in terms of the Expo, it's quite easy to get around. It's sort of, one of the best convention centres in Australia, or if not the best convention centre in Australia, the International Convention Centre. It's kind of like when you get there, I'm assuming this year is going to be similar to last year. Last year was kind of like you're going through an IKEA and you're basically going through and you're navigating through and various different paths. So you're just walking through various different areas. You're starting with the bib pickup, walking through the Expo, looking at various different exhibits. There is, I'm assuming, would be a stage that they had the same as last year with various different events that are on the stage for speakers that you can sort of listen to and watch and participate in potentially. There's the pacer team that's there as well that you can meet. So if you're planning on joining a pacing group and you have any questions for the pacers, they will be there available to answer that as well. So obviously you probably want to come maybe with an empty suitcase in a way, or have enough room in there just to buy a few things. But obviously the whole, nothing new at the marathon sort of applies. But, you want to take some souvenirs home too, and some mementos to remember Australia by. So it's a good place to stock up there at the Expo. There'll be a wide variety of different things, I'm sure.
Love it. Perfect. Thank you. Insights that you get from your Facebook group that has been grown. What are the top 3 to 5 most common questions that you receive from runners about the Sydney Marathon and the events leading up to it?
Yeah, I guess people sort of want to know when to arrive. So a lot of people probably have already made their travel plans by now, so it might be too late to change it. But essentially, you want to give yourself enough time to acclimatize to the local conditions. So like I've run marathons across the world, like in the United States, in Berlin, in London as well. Essentially, traveling takes a lot out of your body. You're putting your body through a lot. So I guess people, if they're sort of traveling across the continental United States, they probably aren't used to jet lag. But jet lag is a real thing when you're sort of traveling across the other side of the globe. So you kind of want to like give yourself maybe a couple of days to accommodate and to acclimatize to the conditions. So if you're planning to arrive on Saturday, it's probably cutting yourself a bit fine. And then you're probably, you're not going to be able to live to your best and put out your best abilities because your body is still adjusting to actually being here. So the common question was basically how to arrive, how to get to the expo. It's very simple. Public transport is the way. You can walk there from most of the city hotels very easily. So it's not hard to get to. How to get to the starting line. So the Sydney Metro is your friend. So they make it dead easy with the participants guide that will be coming out. So it will tell you which of the 2 stations that you should get off at to arrive there in plenty of time for your corral to start. So that's something that you need to consider as well. And obviously just like, general things to do and see and enjoy while you're here. So now's a good time to actually make sure you're booking all your activities in. Like you're expecting thousands upon thousands of international visitors here over the Sydney Marathon weekend. So we want to make sure that you're booking in your activities of things that you want to do so you don't miss out. You don't want to get here and then go, oh, this tour that I had in my mind planned to do, I can't do it anymore because everyone else wants to do it. So I miss out. So if you're traveling all that way, you want to sort of lock it in and sort of plan a few things that you want to do. And make sure that you book those activities in because I can guarantee you that a lot of them will fill up.
Yes, I can only imagine. I heard that the Opera House, for example, has certain amounts of tickets for certain amounts of tours or certain types of tours. So that's very important to do. All right. So now that you have mentioned those 3-ish questions, let's hop a little bit more into this expo. So expo navigation, you mentioned public transportation. That's an easy thing to do. When we talk about race day, what is some advice on getting to the starting line?
Yeah, so there's 2 main stations for the starting line, so that you'll be either assigned as part of your corral. It's either the Victoria Cross station or the Crow's Nest station. So either one of those 2 stations, that will get you to the starting area. Essentially, the start's at the North Sydney Oval. So there is various different sort of, I guess, fences and sort of pens that people will be put into based on their bibs. So you need to make sure that you're sort of arriving, following the instructions that's in the participant's guide about how to get there. The facilities are sort of the same as what you would experience in other world majors with the bathrooms, waters to sort of, if you're bringing a hydration vest, which is allowed, to fill up your vests and so forth. So, everything will be there that you need that is standard on the marathon day. So you shouldn't have to worry too much. And there's also, I guess, screens that are around to sort of show what's happening in the starting area because you can't actually see what's happening at the starting line while you're in that particular area, but there'll be screens around if it's the same as last year to show you what's going on so you're not missing out on too much.
Okay, it's perfect. So you said 2 different stations. Is it kind of like London where London has different starting lines or is that just for different areas?
Yeah, so essentially the starting line is there's a single starting line. And people are pushed out to the starting lines from those particular pens. So that's the way that it works. It's essentially I guess not as big as the London starting area that we have here in Sydney, but there will be a lot of people there. Probably another thing to mention as well is that if you are a spectator, please do not come to the start area. So the marathon people have made that clear previously that they want just people who are running the marathon to be at the starting line because it's, they've got, tens of thousands of people that they need to get to the starting area. And if they're spectators that are taking up spaces on the public transport, then that will be problematic. If you are a spectator and you want to sort of see someone around that area, it's best to catch a train to the North Sydney station and then you can see the runners going past because essentially the North Sydney train station is on the route, on the course. That's the first best opportunity for spectators to actually go and see the runners as they go past. But please don't go to the starting area because it's going to be chaos.
Perfect. And from your experience, how early do you suggest runners arrive at the starting area? And is there a bag drop?
Yeah, a bag drop situation, yeah. Important one. So at the expo, you need to make sure you drop anything that you need for the finish line at the expo. So there's no facility to be able to drop your bag at the starting line. So if you have something that you need for the finish, it's better to drop it off at the expo. Maybe if you're sort of staying in a city hotel, you might not need that facility because your hotel will be very close by, because all of the city hotels are very close to the finish line. And the arrival time, in the participant guide, it will suggest when to arrive. If you're not familiar with the area, I would highly suggest that you take that advice. Like if you're a local like me, then you can probably get there a little bit sort of closer to the time because you're more familiar with the area. But if you're unfamiliar with the starting area, use the guide, read the guide cover, make sure that you sort of understand, that all of the, I guess, the assumptions that the people that have sort of built into there. So like, making sure that you've got plenty of time to go to the bathroom, get a drink, all of your rituals that you need to do, that will be catered for. So while you're waiting in the starting pen. So if you're not familiar, just read the guide. It will give you the best advice on that as to when to arrive. So yeah.
Perfect. Are there any other things that you can think of that people ask in your group that we should mention?
Good question. I don't know. People just want to have a good time when they're here, like what's happening with the after parties. So Sydney and Australia as well, we're known for being I guess a destination for parties. So we like to celebrate. People will come here when you're sort of finished the marathon and you've got your medal and you're wearing it around. Then people will come up to you. They'll congratulate you. They will. They want to talk to you. So I guess we are generally, a fairly happy-go-lucky type place. So yeah, we'll celebrate you as much as we can. And obviously you'll see other fellow runners as well after the marathon wearing their medals around. So that's a really good way that, that you can sort of enjoy the moment with all of your fellow marathon runners. If you like beer, then essentially like Australia is probably, one of the capitals of beer in the world. So we have plenty of wine too. But yeah, if having a drink after a marathon is something that you like to enjoy, I can assure you there'll be plenty of opportunities to do that while you're here. The Rocks is essentially a historic district. There's lots of like old pubs there, restaurants, bars. So it's very much a historic area, and there is, I guess, a lot of opportunities to celebrate in that particular zone. So I wouldn't be surprised if the whole entire area is swamped with marathon finishers who celebrating in that area. So it's quite a beautiful area, and it's really a good place for people to sort of to wander around just generally.
Perfect.
Australia's a beautiful place. You travel so far, you want to have a good time while you're here, and there's plenty of opportunities to do that. Marathons, as I said before, are a stressful experience. We want to take the stress out of your trip while you're here as much as we can.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our fantastic chat. Thank you so much, Ben, for your incredible insight on all of this, your local knowledge and experience, especially about navigating Sydney's transportation and everything else. Thanks again for sharing your expertise, Ben. Now let's hop into the Expo some more, also known as the TCS Sydney Marathon running show presented by ASICS. This is your go-to hub for bib pickup, last-minute gear, and soaking up all that pre-race excitement. So here's some essential information that you need to know about this Expo. Where and when is the Expo? Let's talk about the timing and location of this Expo. The Expo is conveniently located at the International Convention Centre, or ICC, Sydney, on level 4 at 14 Darling Drive. It's a true state-of-the-art venue. Make sure you plan your visit, as the operating hours are Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. How to get to the ICC is easy with public transport. You'll find convenient options including trains, metro, light rail, ferries, and buses that will get you to the ICC, and we'll have the link below for your planning convenience, but generally public transportation is very accessible. Remember, you need an Opal card or a contactless payment card or a device like your iPhone or phone to use public transportation to and from the Expo or anywhere else. And you can plan your trip ahead by visiting transportnsw.info, and that will also be linked below. Now, crucial information, bag drop at the Expo. This is extremely important, so listen up. There's absolutely no bag drop on race day. I know that many marathons offer bag drop on race morning, but not here. The only options for bag drop is going to be at the TCS Sydney Marathon running show presented by ASICS itself. So drop your bag at the Expo when you're visiting or come back later to do it, and rest assured that it'll be available at your marathon recovery zone after you finish your race. Also note that there will be no bag drop at all for the TCS Sydney Marathon 10K or the TCS Sydney Mini Marathon, the 5K. So for these events, just really bring what you need for your race. All right, shifting gears from the logistics to some expert insights, I'm now absolutely thrilled to introduce you to our next guest, Nathan Pope, the running expert and representative of ASICS Australia. I just remember he taught me that it's not ASICS, it's ASICS. So I'm going to try to consistently pronounce it correctly. So ASICS is the sponsor of the TCS Sydney Marathon, and Nathan is here to talk to us a little bit about their sponsorships and, excitingly, what you as runners can expect from ASICS at the Expo. All right, so I'm on here with Nathan Popes from ASICS, the official sponsor of the TCS Sydney Marathon. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, lady. Looking forward to it.
So am I. So maybe we should start with the fact that ASICS is the sponsor of this marathon that is now also the 7th major. So what does this sponsorship mean for the brand, and why is this partnership particularly significant for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge event for the brand to be involved in, a really iconic event, obviously joining the major marathons, and it's really been highlighted especially over in Australia, as a really important event on the running calendar. So it's huge for us to be a part of it, not just from like a brand visibility and sort of being at the event, but sort of our ability to sort of help all runners from all levels to get involved in the sport, whether that's your first time doing a marathon or, all the way through to the elite athletes. So we just want to make sure that people are having a really fun experience. And a lot of people don't actually understand that ASICS is actually a Latin acronym for sound mind and a sound body. And, the marathon is really the ultimate test, both mentally and physically. So it really aligns with sort of us as a brand, and we're really hoping we can make a really enjoyable experience for everyone out on course.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining that. And I think I'm going to start pronouncing it ASICS now. Is that the correct pronunciation?
ASICS.
Have I been saying it wrong?
Yeah, ASICS. It gets called ASICS a bit as well. But yeah, we go by ASICS.
ASICS. Okay, ASICS. So ASICS being the sponsor, you're talking about enhancing runner experiences. We're going to be talking about being able to order stuff online right now, official Sydney gear, as well as being at the Expo, and then various activations. So maybe we can talk about online ordering of products first that are pertaining to this particular marathon.
Yeah, so up online at the moment on the ASICS website is some Sydney official merch. So that'll be going on sale, I believe, early August, around the 5th. So you can actually notify you by email at the moment. But we're going to have sort of head-to-toe Sydney Marathon inspired kit. So hats, shirts, jackets, shorts, little accessories as well. And a part of that collection is also some First Nation artist inspired apparel as well from Indigenous artists. So it's really cool to sort of explore that side of things as well. So yeah, you can jump online, order some apparel, and at the Expo we're going to have some jackets, some bottles and things like that as well. And it's also going to give you the opportunity to sort of come through the Expo and get some custom printing on that kit as well, to get your name on the shirts and things like that. So really customized experience, hopefully for people to sort of take home wherever they're from and sort of rep that merch and let everyone know they're around Sydney. So it's going to be really, really awesome to sort of have that head-to-toe story from us as a brand. So there's also a special edition Nova Blast colorway coming out for the Sydney Marathon. So it looks really nice. We've just popped up on our socials recently as well. So you can have a look at that. So that'd be really cool special edition colorway that'll be available at the Expo as well. So you can search on our ASICS website, the Sydney Marathon collection, and there's male, female, head to toe stuff. So really get yourself kitted out. Looking good on race day. A lot of the materials are really nice as well. So it can be sometimes a bit tricky with weather. So, you can have a look at, jackets on there, or if you're looking for sort of more of a lighter weight style, there's singlets and shorts and tops. And so plenty to look at online there.
Perfect. And can you maybe give us a little bit of a behind the scene as to the race gear? Because a lot of expos, you and I just talked about that offline, run out, right? And the danger of that is you want to order it online. But I feel like purchasing stuff at the Expo is kind of part of the whole marathon experience.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how ASICS has been working on preventing that and kind of getting a count on how much gear they need, because I'm imagining that's super hard.
Yeah, it's always tricky to know, how busy and how much stuff's going to sell. And it's obviously an iconic event and people want to have memorabilia from the event. So yeah, I guess jumping online is going to be a really important aspect to get your gear. We're also going to have quite a bit of space in that expo from a footwear point of view, apparel as well. We're going to have a range of our Meta Run apparel, which is a really performance-based head-to-toe kit for race day. So, and also a lot of our footwear on offer as well. So whether that's, daily trainers, so like your Nimbus and your Kayano, shoes that are really going to help you just get through that marathon if that's your goal. And then if you're looking for sort of chasing down a PB and a faster time, we've got a lot of our performance stuff as well. So like the Super Blast, super popular shoe for us, and also a lot of our carbon-plated Metaspeed range as well. So there'll be plenty of stuff to look at. So make sure you get in there and soak up the atmosphere as well, because it'll be awesome.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And I mean, the only ASICS Expo that I have been to was the LA Marathon, because ASICS is a sponsor of them too. And it was kind of beautifully done how you got your bib and everything, and then you walk through the ASICS area, which is fairly large, and then you go to all the vendors. Can you talk to us a little bit about the setup that ASICS had in mind for this particular expo?
Yeah, so we just came off Gold Coast, and obviously that's a really big event for us over here in Australia. So it's sort of taking some of the learnings from that, but it's just going to be a much bigger space. So we're going to have a lot of opportunity for sort of photo walls, message walls where you can write things on there, really personalized. And then obviously have a really big space for people to browse through products and stuff as well. So it's going to be really big, but it's really designed that you can sort of, once you collect your bib, filter through that ASICS area, and you just snake through and experience all the stuff we've got set up. And then before you head out to a lot of the other vendors around the place as well. So great spot to get any last minute stuff as well if you forget anything, because there's going to be a lot of running product there, which would be awesome. Perfect.
And last but not least, let's talk about some ASICS activations around the town, shakeout runs. What do you guys have going on for all the participants of this beautiful marathon?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of activations and excitement around that whole week. We're going to have a bit of a shakeout run. They're still going through the process of what that's going to look like, so keep an eye out for that. But we're going to have activations out on course, particularly that last sort of kilometre. We're going to have a nice activation there when you're coming down Macquarie Street before you hit the finishing line, and that's going to be when a lot of people are going to be hurting late in the marathon. So hopefully we can really kickstart you and get you through to the finishing line. And then after the finishing line as well, we've got a really nice recovery zone. So all you need to do to access that is to subscribe to our One ASICS loyalty program. And that's going to be a really nice little recovery zone. There's going to be physio rub downs, which will be very much welcome. Also compression boots, if you're familiar with that. And a really nice little photo moment you can grab in front of an ASICS branded area. So you can sort of share that on your socials with your family and friends to make sure you finish strong and you made it through the marathon. So there'll be a nice little spot after the race as well to get around.
It's amazing. So you got it all covered. You got the shakeout run. Where can people find out about these events?
Yeah, so the shakeout run's still in the process of working that through. We're sort of deciding on location of where we can get the most, but that'll be sort of come out through our socials and things like that. And yeah, I just keep an eye out for that whole week. There's going to be a lot of things popping up and things to get excited about.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Nathan, and I look forward to seeing you at the expo.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, so now that you're all geared up, let's talk about the course itself. The TCS Sydney Marathon presented by ASICS has an official elevation profile with an overall elevation gain of 313 meters, that's about 1,027 feet, and an elevation loss of 396 meters, which is roughly 1,300 feet, giving it an overall net elevation loss of 83 meters, which is approximately 272 feet. So that's a lot of hills if you compare it to the other majors. Now, to ensure the best possible experience for the anticipated 35,000 participants, the course has undergone significant thoughtful changes. These improvements include an easier run in the earlier stages with fewer turns, an extension of the Anzac Parade, a simplified one-loop section through Centennial Park, and a crucial change to the 35-kilometer mark on Moore Park Road, removing that uphill battle and allowing for a stronger finish. Fingers crossed. But that's the extent of my knowledge. Full disclosure, I have never run the Sydney Marathon, nor have I been anywhere in Sydney other than the Sydney airport from a layover in Bali. So that's why I'm incredibly grateful to bring you my conversation with Benjamin Lucas, the head coach of the TCS Sydney Marathon. What an honor. He's going to walk us through the course, splitting it up into segments, and he'll talk to us about running tangents and so much more. So please enjoy our conversation with head coach Benjamin Lucas.
All right. So I'm on with Ben Lucas, the head coach of the Sydney Marathon. Ben, thank you so much for joining me today.
Letty, fabulous to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. And I'm so grateful for you to give us your time for this course breakdown, because who is better for this job? You've been doing this marathon for how long, and how long have you been head coach of this race?
Yeah, great. So, I ran my first Sydney Marathon 17 years ago. So this would be like my 9th Sydney. In 2009, I had 100 first timers. I trained to run their very first marathon in 2009. So that was pretty epic. And at that stage, I didn't have any association with the marathon. I was just, owner of a gym owner that liked running and liked getting people into running. And at that stage, I think there was probably about 1,000 people running the full marathon, if that. And I've been the head coach. This will be my 3rd year as Sydney Marathon head coach, and very exciting year for our first year as a world major and 35,000 runners. And this year's Sydney Marathon, the largest marathon in Southern Hemisphere history. So yeah, really exciting.
This is going to be a very exciting race for that reason. And another reason also, I heard that there is a huge percentage of these runners being first timers.
Yeah. So I think it's in the 30s. It's around, 35%. So a third of the field running their very first marathon. So it's a incredible stat, I guess, all around the world, obviously running is on an exponential curve, but especially here in Sydney, anytime, any day of the night, you see people running in parks, around the harbour, run clubs. It's just huge, all ages, all cultures. It's fabulous to see.
That's pretty amazing. And do you know anything about the demographics, where these 30-ish% of people come from? Is it Australians, or are they just lucky people that got a bib?
It's a good mix of the both. I believe there's round about of the 35,000, like 8 to 10,000 are coming from overseas, either from the ballot or travel groups. And then we have, a strong contingency of local runners, either running for charities or through the ballot as well.
It's absolutely amazing. And just imagining that Sydney being a first marathon given its course, let's hop into that a little bit, because obviously we've all seen the charts out there of the 7 world majors, and Sydney is said to be the hardest.
Yeah, I guess it's my hometown marathon, so I know every street back to front, inside out. I run pretty much every one of them every single week. So I don't find it that bad, really. And I've run a lot of the world majors, I guess, because it's just, the scenery is just so beautiful and I just love running around it much. I don't find it's that bad, really. Like it might be statistically wise, but I think once you're out there running it, I think you just enjoy it so much you forget about the inclines.
Love it. I love it. And I hope you're right, because I currently reside in Florida and the max elevation I can get on a 20-mile run is maybe 3 feet a meter, which is pretty ridiculous. But we'll be running a couple more bridges prior to Sydney, but let's hop into a mile by mile-ish course breakdown, or maybe you can break down this race to us in any segments that makes the most sense.
Well, how I like to do it for my own running and how I do it for my runners and my run clubs. So we're broken down into kilometers here in Australia. So I've broken down every 5Ks. To the finish. Okay. So the first 5 kilometers. So we're starting in North Sydney. It's called Miller Street. So there's a short incline. It's good for me because I can visualize every single street on this. So short incline, and then we're downhill to the Pacific Highway and the Harbour Bridge. So it's just beautiful, amazing. I love just running over the bridge when you're on the footpath, but let alone running down the middle of the Sydney Harbour Bridge with thousands of other runners. It's pretty amazing, pretty iconic. So short incline downhill, and then we're across the harbour bridge. Yeah, tips to runners, don't get carried away here. I know you want to run hard. I know that there's the energy, there's running across the bridge, but just maintain your pace, control your breathing, hold back, and just soak up the beautiful environment and atmosphere. Okay, so next K, so 5 to 10 kilometers. So it's quite flat with some small undulations. So we're going through Piermont, Harris Street, and then we've got again amazing views over Darling Harbour. So we can settle into our race pace here. So from 5 to 10 Ks, because it's flat-ish, it's a good section to settle into race pace, find your rhythm, and start to feel good. Okay, then the next, so 10 to 15, this is a little bit more challenging. So we're through Barangaroo, again, beautiful harbour. So we're going under the harbour bridge now. So we've been over the bridge. Now we're coming around going under the harbour bridge. So again, keeping our race pace. Okay, so we actually got some uphills. So through the Rocks, the CBD and Hyde Park. And then the climb, first pretty decent climb begins on Oxford Street, which I am right now, and Flinders, okay? So this is our first kind of biggish climb in the 10 to 15 Ks. So shorten your strides, stay relaxed, keep your good posture. And also, that's one of our first big crowd sites too at Taylor Square. So we've got a real big LGBTIQ plus community here in Sydney, and that's where they're going to be based, and that's where their celebrations are going to be out of that Taylor Square. So we're going to have lots of energy coming from there too. So 10 to 15, decent incline, running past Taylor Square. There's going to be huge energy from our LGBTIQ plus community there too. Okay, then we're rolling straight into 15 to 20 Ks. So this is getting long, flat stretches. So the next 10, you're going to be able to make up some time because it's largely flat. So from 15 to 20 kilometers, so Flinders Street onto Anzac Parade, so long, flat boulevard. We're going past Moore Park, SCG and Allianz. So three of Australia's biggest stadiums right there. On your left again. So we're dialing in our pace here. Okay. Make sure we're staying hydrated and focused. Okay. So we've gone around a few turns there. Now we've got an out and back. So from 20 to 25 Ks on it's called Anzac Parade, and it's just a flat out and back. So we can really go hard there. So it's a slight incline going out, slight decline going back, but you won't really even notice. So it's one of the best sections for you to just focus in, lock in. So we've got out, back, Anzac Parade. All right. So then from there, from 25 to 30, we're going around Centennial Park. So one of Australia's most iconic parks, we do a full lap of. So it's scenic, it's shaded, it's a nice peaceful loop. By the time we're at 25 to 30, the crowds have kind of dispersed a bit. Okay. And it's gentle. It's kind of slight rolling terrain. Okay. It's one of the most mentally refreshing segments because we're in the shade. It's pretty much flat. Now, this is where runners obviously start to fatigue. So from the 25 to 30K areas, this is why we've got to make sure that we're staying fueled and hydrated. Okay. So we've finished the Centennial Park loop, and now we're heading back into the city. So we're going back past those stadiums. Okay. And now we've only got 10 to 15 Ks to go. So we're really going to put in. So keep your rhythm, keep a steady effort. And we're starting to visualize that final 7 kilometers. Yep. Okay. Now again, our last incline. So 35 to 40. So we're going around the Botanic Gardens into Circular Quay. So again, absolutely beautiful scenery. It's shaded there too. And we're getting more and more crowds there. And the Opera House is in sight. So I like to use a mantra for myself when it starts to, I just say, good, happy, strong. Good, happy, strong. I feel good. I feel happy. My body feels strong. Good, happy, strong. Good, happy, strong. And this is where all your training comes to light. Okay. So we're finished. We're at the top of the Botanic Gardens, turning onto Macquarie Street, final 2 kilometres. Okay, so here we go. So running past Hyde Park, then coming down to Macquarie Street. So it's a good change. So our course starts on a downhill and it finishes on a downhill. So 2 kilometres down Macquarie Street, huge crowd. It's going to be the biggest crowds ever. Obviously, many people out to see Kipchoge, but want to see Letty as well, I'm sure, for the final 2Ks. So again, shoulders back, chest proud, soak it all in. You're about to finish a 7th world major for the first time in history. And then we finish at the Opera House, what I believe is the world's most iconic finish line of any world major or of any marathon. And congratulations, you finished a world major marathon. There we go.
Wow, thank you. You make it sound super beautiful, and I feel like every Australian I talk about Sydney to has been saying that how scenic it is for running, and now I can't wait to see it. I hope it doesn't. I hope it lives up to the expectations.
It can't not, you know. So yeah, across the Harbour Bridge, through the rocks. Finish at the Opera House. It's just magnificent.
It sounds really amazing. So from all the inclines you mentioned, which ones are the hardest ones? And not just hardest because of elevation, but also because of the fatigue as we accumulate that.
Yeah. So it would be the 30-ish K mark, 32K. So when you're heading out Lady Macquarie's chair, so like around Circular Quay, like that one, the incline isn't the hardest, but you're so fatigued at that spot and you just want the race to be over. So that's definitely one of the harder ones. But yeah, there's no one, there's just many undulations throughout as opposed to a heartbreak hill at any stage. But I would say, yeah, Lady Macquarie's chair is probably our most challenging incline. So, and that's with around 7 or 10 Ks to go.
Okay. So that's pretty late, in the race. So with that, in your coaching experience, obviously you've coached people through the Sydney Marathon before, and obviously you've also dealt with people who have blown up. What do you think is the biggest mistake that runners make during this particular race?
Yeah, look, I've known hundreds of runners over the years that are amazing runners, and their strategy just goes out the window come race day. I was just feeling so good the first 10, and instead of sticking to my 5 minute, 4:30, whatever it is, I decided to run 4:10s. It's like, so I just tell my runners that, we've worked to a goal pace, and you've got, I don't care how good you feel, you stick to it, so that's where I see the biggest challenge, where people, they get swept up in the emotion, they get swept up with the crowds, or kind of a bit of ego. They see people running past them, which they don't like either. It's just like, no, fortunately that we've got the amazing technology there to pace us. I'm from we didn't used to have watches like this. I used to just have times written on my arm about where I should be at 5, 10, 20 Ks written in Texter, so now we've got these amazing things. Just stick to your race pace, stay hydrated, and make sure that you're having enough fuel as well. They're the things that I see runners come unstuck for, is going too hard too early, not hydrating, and not having enough fuel.
Okay. So the usual. And as to, obviously we can't control the weather, so there's no point in looking at the weather, but obviously there's a history of Sydney marathons and weather. I was looking up some of the YouTube stuff available, and I see a lot of runs where people and spectators are wearing t-shirts. At the same time, people are telling me, okay, this is a chilly run, this is a colder temperature of the year. So what's the truth here?
Yeah, okay. So temperature is going to be, look, in the teens most likely. It's going to start off in the morning, probably 10 to 12, and then it's going to warm up to the teens, maybe 15, 17 degrees, more than likely. I mean, that's pretty good for us. So I'm happy to be out running in a singlet in that weather. So we're just coming into spring. So it's been interesting the last 2 years. So last year was cold and windy, and that was in September, our spring. And the year before that was one of the hottest Sydney marathons it's ever been. And it was like late 20s, early 30s, and that was too hot. So yeah, obviously we can't control the weather. We're seeing more and more marathons these days in pretty extreme weather conditions just happening all around the globe. And you just have to temper your expectations with the weather, that if it somehow miraculously is a 35-degree day, well, you just might not hit your goal race, and that's fine, and it's not because of you. Might have to knock it off 10-15% just because of the weather that day, and we just have to deal with the conditions. It could be pouring rain, that's just life, unfortunately, but we're going to go in there, we're going to prepare as good as we can, and we're going to deal with the conditions as good as we can as well.
Right, and the beauty of that is that every runner has the same weather, they're dealing with it too, so the results will reflect that.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. And you've seen many times in Boston, in London, that there's been freakish weather events, and the times have changed accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully that won't be an issue. Do you have any other last minute, or I guess we have a month to go, but tips for runners, for people that have never been to Sydney that are going to be running this beautiful marathon for when it comes to running this course?
So what have I got? Yeah, I've got plenty. So I mean, training, with your long runs, making sure that you're including some elevation. I would also focus on downhill running as well. Like people focus on uphill running, which is great, and then they might walk the downhills, but there's plenty of downhill places in Sydney in the race that you can make up time as well. So I would encourage runners to practice downhill running at pace too, because that's a great place to be able to make up time on the marathon course. Obviously hydrate well. It's going to be dry and quite cold, so you kind of underestimate how much fluid you need when it's dry and cold. So make sure you stay hydrated. I mean, I like to think about the course in 5K blocks, about what I need to do in each 5K of those 8 5K blocks. So I've broke it down for your runners to do that. Visualization along the course about my form, about where I am. And I love having a mantra as well, just to keep in my head. The aid stations are going to be very regular. So we're going to have obviously water and Powerade out on course. I think you had a question about running the angles on the course too. So, I mean, if you run too wide, because it's quite a windy course, okay? And if you stay too wide on it, you could run an extra 500 meters over the 42.2. So try to run a bit closer to the corners, and potentially running smart lines could save you up to half a kilometer.
That's good. That's absolutely necessary for a course that has this many tangents and turns. And I heard that the course was actually changed just for this year to make it not as sharp of turns, right?
Yeah, so a number of turns were taken out, and some of the incline, I think about 100 odd meters of incline was taken out of the course too. So it's flatter, less turns, faster. Let's go.
Perfect for mass consumption. Ben, Thank you so much. And hopefully I will get to meet you in person.
There will be 100 shakeout runs. I'm sure we'll get to catch up.
Thank you so much.
All right, pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I look forward to seeing you out on course.
Thank you, Coach. This was super helpful, and it was nice to kind of get a visual of what is to come. And since we are talking what is to come on the course, let's talk about hydration and nutrition. You'll be well supported on the course with electrolytes and water you'll find at every 5K mark. So you'll find them at the 5K, 10K, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, as indicated with a W on the Sydney Marathon course map. And the electrolytes that you'll be finding there is going to be Powerade. Also, you'll be able to find gels, and the gel sponsor is GOO. GU will be available at the 20-kilometer and 30-kilometer drink stations, and you can find that on the course map marked with the letter E. Quick reminder, if you have never used GU and never have used Powerade and you have a weak stomach, just bring your own hydration and gels. Hydration vests are allowed at this marathon. Now, this was all for the course, and if it has not eased your mind yet, then maybe it's time to think about whether or not you should join a pacing team. And with this marathon, you're absolutely in luck. There are 1 million official pacers available. Well, maybe not 1 million, but there are going to be a fantastic 120 of them. And they're available in 5-minute increments, starting for those trying to run a super speedy 240 marathon, which is super exciting, right? Here's the thing about pacing, though. In my experience, it's all about trust, and sometimes it can be pretty unpredictable. I remember doing the LA Marathon years ago and just blindly joining the 3:15 pace team without actually talking to the pacer beforehand. And at mile 12, I was absolutely dying and asked him how we were doing with the pace. The pacer told me that he was planning on banking time the first half and then slowing down for the second half, which, as you can imagine, totally didn't work for me. I lost them at mile 14 and burned out. And ever since then, I've been really skeptical about pacers. And if I ever use a pacer, I always make sure to talk to them about their pacing plan prior to running with them. And for this marathon, I did exactly that, which is why we have our next interview with official pacer Damon Lynch of the TCS Sydney Marathon. He's one of the 3:45 pacers and tells us exactly what we want to know about their pacing plan, their strict guidelines for the pacers, and so much more. So I'm really happy to share my conversation with Damon Lynch. All right, so welcome Damon Lynch, official pacer of the TCS Sydney Marathon. Damon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Letty, and it is great to chat to you today. And obviously there's a lot of excitement with the TCS Sydney Marathon coming up.
Exactly. Tons of excitement. And that's why we're here, because of how strategically difficult this marathon is due to elevation and turns and other things. So we wanted to chat with you as a pacer about all of that. So that way people traveling from abroad that have never been to Sydney or have never run the Sydney Marathon know how to work with a pacer from the Sydney Marathon.
Awesome. And I don't know whether you're saying that it's quite undulating or hilly. I think it's quite a nice course, and I think that everyone will actually enjoy it. It's I would say, and I'm biased here, one of the most scenic marathons you'll run.
That's what we keep hearing. However, there are the charts out there that list all 7 majors, and they list Sydney as more difficult as the notoriously difficult New York Marathon.
Yeah, look, I think there's ups and downs. I actually like the undulation on there. So if you look at that, I have run Chicago, very flat. Sydney's I enjoy the ups and downs that you get. So you get a bit of relief as you go along. But it is challenging from a pacer point of view. So but I think everyone will really, really enjoy the course.
Yeah. So maybe we can start by talking a little bit about how you became a pacer, how many pacers there are, and what somebody needs to do or where somebody needs to be in order to be a pacer. Because I think from our previous conversation, I learned that you don't really have to live in Sydney to be a pacer for the Sydney Marathon.
Yeah, look, that's absolutely correct, Letty. Look, I've been running myself and running marathons for about 10 years, and I've done a number of different pacing duties at different runs. I started off with pacing some 10K events and some half marathons. I've paced at Sydney. This will be my third time pacing in Sydney. I paced last year, and I paced a couple of years before that. I've also done some marathons in other cities around Australia. I think with the pacing team, the pacing team itself is quite big and very diverse. We have around about 120 pacers across various times, typically every 5 minutes up to 5 hours, and then we have large intervals post the 5 hour mark. I am running at 3 hours 45. And there are a number of pacers that sit in so for example, myself at 3 hours 45, I will start in one corral, but there'll be another corral with a 3 hour 45 group as well. Typically we have 2 to 3 people there. We wear flags, so we're very noticeable, and we welcome everyone to tack on and enjoy the atmosphere. Our role there is really to provide that support, keep the team motivated and keep them going and have a fun day.
That's impressive. I mean, I've never heard of a marathon having that many pacers. Is that something that's just specific to Sydney?
Oh, look, I think we've got more pacers than most. And what I'm amazed about is that we start at 2 hours 40. So, we've got some serious fast runners in there doing the pacing, which is very exciting. But I think the Sydney is really taken on board that they love this. They love the pacers being there, and they really enjoy the atmosphere that's out there. The group itself, very diverse. As I said, we've got people from all different countries in there. I got involved because I was an experienced pacer from some other events, but I also, I run with a local club here called the Sydney Striders, who are very, they're very active in the pacing of various events around Sydney and New South Wales, the state of New South Wales. So that's where I really got my lead into the group itself.
And you are one of the local Sydney pacers. How many non-local Sydney pacers are there?
Yeah, I think I don't have the exact numbers, but we're looking at probably 50 to 60% are outside of Sydney. That said, some of the people are returning. We've got a number of people from internationally and interstate in Australia who are returning as pacers. We have a very collegiate group. So we're very active on our WhatsApp groups, talking about what we're doing and where we are and what we're running at the time. We also have a strong setup in Sydney itself for the pacers here, and some have travelled from interstate to join these, what we call the Sydney Marathon Run Club, which is a fantastic initiative where we run these events each month, where we will lead as pace groups, and we're getting quite a few hundred people attending these events each month, and we've been stepping up the Ks at kilometres, or in your sense, miles, and getting a sense from them, and they get to be familiarised with who we are and what we're doing, and it's a really good way to actually bring together the team and feel like we're, as I said, collegiate, or a real team environment there as the pacing group.
Sounds amazing, but let me ask you this. What does it take to become a Sydney Marathon pacer? Do the times that you run or the time that you pace, does that time have to be a lot faster than your racing time? Because I cannot imagine not living in a city and then pacing runners, having that responsibility for a marathon time that might be, their goal time.
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. The rule of thumb here, from a pacing point of view, and if I look at my sort of where I sit versus where my racing time is, typically you're looking at a variable of about 20 to 30 minutes from your pace time. Sometimes a bit more. Simon Walsnizer, who's the coordinator of the pace team, he's very scientific around ensuring that he's got the right people in there to run those paces as well. So look, we generally have a 30-minute, I would say a 30-minute buffer there from our racing time versus what we do, and that's important so that we can have the ability to talk and support the team, or support the group around the pace bus as we run around the marathon course itself.
Yeah, okay, awesome. I love it. Thanks for clarifying that. I feel like we're going to be in good hands, no matter where our pacers are now from. So you mentioned you have increments of about 5 minutes, so starting 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. How can runners identify their pacers? I'm assuming they're going to wear flags on race day morning?
Yeah, look, we're all kitted up. So we have a full uniform, red singlet, ASICS gear, obviously being sponsored by ASICS, the event itself. But we wear these large flags, teardrop flags from that we have at the back of us, so that we're quite noticeable with the times on there. We'll be there visible at the start in the different corrals, so we will welcome people to join us on that. In addition to that, the Expo itself, we have a stand at the Expo, and people are welcome to come up to us and talk about the strategies of the marathon itself, and get to meet some of us as we're as we're at the Expo as well.
Okay, perfect. My next question is going to be about how the pacers run. Obviously, I'm not asking, if a 4-hour pacer is supposed to bring you in 4 minutes. 4 hours, 4 minutes would be nice. But how do they pace? Are they all kind of the same? Are they told to slow down on the ways up and then catch up when it goes down? Also for the course, first half, second half, do they do negative splits or steady? How are they instructed to work, or is each pacer different?
No, we're actually given quite strict instructions around how we pace here. Sydney, as you alluded to before, is quite an undulating course. So the first 5K from the start is generally downhill, crossing the Harbour Bridge, which is quite an iconic landmark in itself, but largely downhill for the first 5K. So we would expect that we're slightly above or faster than our target pace at that point in time, but we're not going to go, we're going to be within that 30-second range by the end of the first 5K. Because it is undulating, there may be some variables of 5 seconds here or there on each kilometre that we run. But when we get through halfway, we should be within 30 seconds of our target time. And we continue to maintain that right up until the end. We are marked ourselves, interestingly, at the end of the event, based on our splits as well. So there's a little bit of pressure on us to ensure that we also make sure that we come on time for the bus as well. So it's an interesting dynamic. We try to stick as even as possible throughout, whilst ensuring that people on the uphills, that we don't burn people up on the uphills as well.
I love it. I love that it's organized like that, and that you don't have this whole guessing game of how is this particular pacer going to pace me? Are they going to try to run negative splits afterwards when maybe I don't have that in the tank, but they're going out too fast? And I've dealt with a lot of races where I've just since then not used pacers for that reason, but I like that Sydney's organized like that. So with that, how do you guys handle aid stations? Do you guys stop, walk through, or do you just kind of continue to go steady, as you mentioned?
Yeah, look, pacers will continue to go through in circumstances, particularly towards the end. What I've experienced myself is that where runners are really working hard to keep up with us, I will help out by taking some, grabbing some drinks or some gels or other things for those runners. But the important thing for us is that we continue to maintain that equal pace throughout as much as possible. So we will continue to run through. We do provide notice to the teams, and the nutrition stops are quite large. There will be plenty of room for runners to peel off, grab their fluids or whatever they need at that point in time, and tack back onto the pace bus.
Okay, perfect. Now, my next question is going to be about the course cutoff times. What is the course cutoff time for Sydney?
Yeah, so good question. We are crossing over some pretty major motorways. So the Sydney Harbour Bridge, it carries a lot of traffic normally, and fantastically for this event, the athletes will actually get to run over the bridge, which is an amazing experience. It's a real iconic landmark of the city. So we do start early. We're starting the race from 6:15 for the wheelchairs, moving into elites, and then 6:30 onwards for the corrals. I think 8:15 is roughly the last point for the last wave there, and there's a 7-hour cutoff from there for the course. There are a few sweepers as pacers in our pace team, and what they will do is they'll ensure that the runners ahead of that 7-hour. There may be circumstances where if someone is unable to keep in front of the sweeper, that they may be asked to move to the side. But 7 hours cut off to finish the event.
And that's 7 hours starting when the last corral starts, or when the last runner of that certain corral starts?
Last corral, yeah. Last corral start
last
time.
Corral.
So yeah.
Okay. And as for intermediate cutoff points, you know how Tokyo has certain marks that you have to hit, almost like check-in points. Does Sydney have that too, or is that more of an overall 7 hours?
No specific interim cutoff points. We work towards that 7 hour finish time.
Okay. And for those that get swept, are they being taken completely off the course, or are they able to finish on the sidewalks and then eventually get a medal when they cross the finish line, and then it just doesn't count towards their major time? Or how does that work with Sydney?
They will be able to run on the sidewalks there. If we look at the course itself, the last 4 or 5K is easily accessible on footpaths to finish the course itself.
Perfect. And I guess, you've explained a lot with the pacing groups. Anything that you think would be logistical advice for runners planning to run or join with a pacing group on race day? Anything they can do to best succeed with that?
Look, I think the important thing is to identify us at the start point. So the start is at St. Leonard's Park, which is quite a large parkland, and it's a fantastic place to meet the pacers. We'll be visible there, and if they see us at the start of the corrals, come up and say hello, introduce yourself to us, just tack on and have a good time. We are very visible. We have the big flags there. It's not like we sneak in at the last moment. We're going to be there visible, and we welcome people to join us. We want to have fun. We want them to have fun as well. It will be good. And as I said before, we're also at the expos. If people have questions beforehand, they can talk to us around that.
Damon, thank you so much. I really appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Letty, and it's been an honour to chat with you, and I really look forward to seeing you in Sydney in, what is it, less than 5 weeks now. It's not very long away.
I know, it's right around the corner. Thank you, Damon.
Thanks, Letty.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Damon, for all that incredible insight. It's clear that we're in truly good hands with this pacing team, whether you choose to run with them or not. All right, so now let's address some other marathon-related questions that are floating around on the internet. Let's talk about corral assignments. Runners will be assigned to specific corrals based on their estimated finish times a couple weeks prior to the race. Now, if you are not solo traveling and you have somebody with you and they want to spectate the marathon, spectator guides will be available on the official TCS Sydney Marathon website. Let's talk about the weather. Nobody knows, right? You can keep tracking your weather app because I can't give you more information than that, except for travel smart and bring layers. Be prepared for any weather possible. Hydration vests and nutrition on the course. We've already talked about that. And Sydney is one of the races that lets you bring your own hydration vest. But obviously, make sure that you check the official race guide on the website for any specific restrictions or sizes closer to the event. And now one of my favorite topics, pop-up events, shakeout runs, and celebratory events post-marathon. I will be collecting all of that information, everything I can find, and post them on our socials. So if you want to see what is out there, I'm going to release that schedule on our social media, which I'm going to link below. Probably check the Instagram. All right, so for our last, but certainly not least segment, I am super excited to introduce Michael Young, a personal friend of mine, but also someone who is involved in the logistics of the TCS Sydney Marathon, onto this video/podcast. Michael has run the Sydney Marathon multiple times, lived the experience, and he's here to drop some serious knowledge. He's going to offer us some practical advice, some insider advice, and a lot of information for out-of-town runners. He'll touch on the culture of Australia, and he'll make sure that you enjoy the race and make Sydney a truly unforgettable experience. So let's hear from Michael.
All right, so I'm on here with Michael, a seasoned Sydney Marathon participant and personal friend of mine. Michael, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us today.
Thank you, Letty.
You are the lucky one to be picked to talk to me about all of this, because not only are you one of the few people I know from Sydney, but you've also done this marathon a ton of times.
Sure. So I ran the first Sydney Marathon back in April 2000, which was the Olympic trial for the Olympics that year, held in Sydney, September 2000. Then ran next year, which was the first official Sydney Marathon as we see it today, and on and off ever since then. The course has obviously changed. The first course was out to the Olympic Stadium in Western Sydney. Now we're all city-based. And I've seen the growth. We've gone from 2,500 way back then to where we are this year, we've got 34,000 registrations. So the size change has been enormous. And of course, it brings the unique challenges with it as well.
It does bring unique challenges, and we will talk about that. But first, you love Sydney, and everyone that knows you knows that you love Sydney and the marathon. So maybe tell us what you love so much about your city, but mostly about the race.
I think what visitors are going to find, the international visitors are going to find, is that we don't take life too seriously. You know, there's things in life you do take seriously, but Sydney side as Australians, we tend to really try and look for the funny side of things, and we're very relaxed about things. So that's Sydney. We're an outdoor country, and Sydney's very outdoor, being a harbour city with great beaches, but also a beautiful inner west and outer west where you go up into the Blue Mountains. We've got it all there. Whether you want to do trail running or whether you want to do running by the beach or whether you want to do running around the city. So the Sydney Marathon course really takes advantage of all of that. If you look at it running over the harbour bridge as the sun comes up on the last day of winter, and then traverse your way through what is a beautiful, modern, clean city, it's just wonderful to run. It really is quite refreshing. It's tough. It's a marathon, and it's not going to be an easy marathon for a lot of runners that aren't prepared for it. It's a challenging course, but it's also stunningly beautiful overall. And the finish line area down into that opera house as you come down Macquarie Street is something that you really have to experience. You know, we talk about right on Hereford, left on Boylston. I can tell you, as you go straight down Macquarie Street to the opera house, it is so iconic. It's unbelievable. You're going to love it.
I can't wait to see it. And you were, you know, making it even more exciting by mentioning all these different sites, but you also mentioned talking about winter. So here, most of my listeners are in the Northern Hemisphere. Winter to us means cold. Sorry, that beep. Winter to us means cold, but I know it's the opposite for you guys. So let's talk about the weather. And I know, huge disclaimer, you are not a weather man. And weather can vary depending on, you know, various different things. But in your experience, what has the weather been like? Because we have to, one, pack for our whole trip, but also marathon day, right?
Yeah, if you're coming down here for a week or so, you need to pack layers. The best advice I can give you if you're going to stay in New South Wales or stay in Sydney is pack layers, because the days can be warm, the mornings are cool, the nights will be cool. The marathon's on the last day of winter, but when you look back historically over the last few years, that last weekend in winter has been warmer than 2 weeks later when the marathon is traditionally run. So you might strike a warm day. I'm pretty sure you're going to strike a cold start. And again, you bring a layer of clothing to leave at the start line. You can discard it there. It goes to charity. That's what we all do. You just get a cheap top, throw it off at the start line, gets picked up, goes to charity. The odds of having a warm race, they're probably about 30 or 40%. And by warm, I mean something that's around 16 degrees Celsius, probably something in your 55, 65 degrees Fahrenheit area. It could land that, but we're starting early. You've got a 6:30 start for the able-bodied fields. You've got a 6:15 start for the wheelchair races. And it should be cool at that stage. It definitely won't be warm or humid at that point. I don't think we're going to have a hot race. That would be unusual. We've had one in the last 5 or 6 years. So if you think of how Boston actually goes, you'll get the odd year at Boston where it's really hot, and then you'll get that normal type of average weather. I predict that it should be nigh on perfect marathon running unless it's unusual. If we have a normal average day for the last day of winter, it should be very pleasant. But as you said, I'm not a weatherman, and who knows, it could end up with pouring rain.
Right. So we're not going to hold you accountable for that statement and your prediction, but thank you so much for telling us about that. But let's hop into some other areas that are going to be interesting for our audience, which is Sydney culture tourism. You kind of already spoke a little bit about the Sydney attitude that I'm really looking forward to, because I love sarcasm and I love humor and I love laid backness. So we'll find all of that in Sydney, plus we'll also find a whole bunch of sites. What are the number 1 through 5, maybe 6 sites that you recommend for someone that is coming to Sydney? And let's say they're coming on an American schedule, which is a short trip.
Okay. So, Letty, I know that you're really looking forward to seeing kangaroos. I can tell that they're one of your favorite mammals that you really want to go and see. So that one's an easy one. And probably probably good advice is you don't need to go paying for expensive harbour cruises to go on the harbour. We have ferries. So very much like you can in New York or San Francisco or other sea-based or harbour-based cities, you can actually get public transport ferry across the harbour. Our transport system is all what we call tap on, tap off. So if you've got a credit card or a debit card, you just tap it on the right reader at the start and you tap it off when you get to the end of your journey. There's no special cards required. You can just do that with your normal credit card. So I would say a trip across to Taronga Zoo from the Circular Quay in the city, that will take you to see koalas and kangaroos and so on, so you can stay in the city for that. There are plenty of zoos and koala parks around, and, people can Google that, but there is one that's just a ferry ride across the harbour, which is Taronga Zoo. You could do a ferry ride down to Manly as well if you wished. You can walk across the harbour bridge. Obviously, the Opera House is a big one. And with the Opera House is this great little bar/cafe/restaurant called the Opera Bar, which is one level down at the Opera House and looks straight towards the harbour bridge. It's a beautiful spot to have a nice coffee or a drink in the afternoon on a lovely Sydney day. The classic beaches such as Bondi Beach, they're all within reach either through Uber or through public transport. And there is a beautiful walk that I'd suggest runners can either use as a loosening run, you can use it to get over jet lag, which is Coogee to Bondi. Now, your listeners can Google that, but Coogee Beach to Bondi Beach, it's 8 kilometres. It's right along the seaside. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So that one's a good one to do. There is a bridge climb, so you can actually climb to the top of the bridge. Some will do that. It needs to be booked. A lot of these things would need to be booked. For those that have a bit of spare time, up into the Blue Mountains. So the Blue Mountains is a day trip. It's west of Sydney. It's about 90 minutes to 2 hours inland from where the harbour bridge actually is. And that is a beautiful spot where I do my trail running. They're not actually mountains. They're called the Blue Mountains because they take a haze of blue on particular days. They look magnificent. So that's another thing that you can actually do. There will be plenty to do. Look, even just going to a pub or a cafe or walking around town down by the Opera House, the Rocks area is magnificent as well. It's all going to be pretty busy. What we saw last year when we had the candidate marathon was a lot of international visitors with the age group championships. So the city will be busy. It will be buzzing.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And I've been taking notes, and we'll put all information in the show notes, what we're gathering from you here. And you've already kind of talked about my next topic, which is travel logistics. There is no Suica card as we would find them in Tokyo, Japan, etc. So you mentioned everything is very easily payable by card. What about public transportation, buses, subways? Is that safe? And is that what people do in Sydney?
Yeah, it's all very safe. And that credit card will get you on any form of public transport in New South Wales. We have a metro system, a train system, a brand new one throughout the city, which opened last year. We've had portions of that metro system in the outer west that have been open for 5 years. It's clean, it's beautiful. And actually, when you see the stations, they're a work of art. They are beautiful. The metro is what is most likely to get most of the runners from the city across to the start line. That would be the choice. There's also a heavy rail system underground that runs at the same point across to North Sydney. We've got light rail, which are trams above ground that also run up and down as well as the buses. You find the transport system throughout Sydney, the city area, is really, really suitable and very, very easy to use. And the other thing is you can always ask. Sydney-siders are very friendly with that. If you're a foreigner and you're in town, just ask. The Sydney-sider will point you in the right direction. There's plenty of transport around throughout the whole CBD, city area, Circular Quay. There won't be any problem there. It's all well signposted. And it's all very simple. We try and keep things simple because we're pretty simple people. So you'll see a big M for metro and you'll see a big T for trains. You'll see a big L for light rail and you'll see a big B for buses, and there you'll know where to go.
Very nice. I wish everything in life was that easy and simple, straightforward. So speaking about, you were kind of mentioning certain areas in Sydney, certain neighborhoods, and I know you and I talked about places to stay. Obviously, most people that are going to Sydney, unless they're absolutely crazy, probably have booked their trip already. But For future runners of Sydney, or maybe if somebody wants to switch, what are some good areas to stay in for marathon logistics, expo logistics, and having a good experience? So, you don't stay in a neighborhood that has nothing to do with the race.
Yeah, so you're coming a long way. And I'm a firm believer in this, I really am, that you should stay as close to the finish line as you possibly can if the finish line is in an area that's well populated and part of the city. So if you look at where it finishes in Circular Quay. So anywhere in Sydney's central business district, which takes up about 2 or 3 square kilometres, would be suitable. And it's all budget dependent. But the advantage you've got coming out of Europe or coming out of North America is the exchange rate on your dollar or euro gets you a cheaper room than it does for an Australian. So I would say if you're coming this far and you're spending that much on planes to get here, don't quibble about $50 or $100 for a night at a hotel. Stay somewhere where it's a good location, where you know there's going to be a lot of activity, where there's lots of restaurants, things to do. And that area around the finish line, Circular Quay, that whole area there, the Rocke, Circular Quay, the northern part of the city, there's ample hotels, all good quality, international class hotels to stay at. And if you book early enough, the prices tend to be reasonable. Obviously, with the marathon now growing in popularity, those prices go up over marathon week and marathon weekend. And the most popular hotels sell out pretty quickly. But I would always stay in those sorts of areas where there is activity. After the race, you're not far from your hotel. You can have a shower, you can go down and have a drink, you can have a coffee, you can watch others finish, you can do all those sorts of things, rather than thinking, I've got to get on a train now and I've got 40 minutes to get back to my hotel. That kind of spoils it. And, when you add all this up, the money that we spend on running, which is meant to be a cheap sport, and particularly for international travellers, just spend a little bit extra, because the memory will be that much nicer for it.
I love that. I completely agree with you and that idea of having the convenience of staying close to the finish line, just because, you don't want to just run. I mean, I guess you can, but there's always the aftermath of the running. So let's talk about that a little bit. Things to do after you get done running. Grab a beer. Where should people go? What areas of the city?
Okay, so with the finish at the marathon, it's really busy at the finish line. It's really busy. It's beautiful. Once you pass that finish line, you're actually walking alongside the Opera House steps to get to the athletes' recovery area. And that's your best place for selfies. The number of selfies that I saw the international visitors taking there, looking back towards the Opera House steps at the Sydney Marathon finish line, it really is iconic. So then as you make your way back to your hotel, that whole city area on a Sunday afternoon down towards the harbour will be busy. The pubs are open. There's lots of outdoor dining. So assuming the weather's okay, if you haven't sort of booked anything or you don't know quite where to go, head to the Rocks, head to the pubs, have your medal on. You'll start up a conversation straight away, and you'll probably make friends for life if you stay there long enough. You might not remember who they were the next morning, but you will make friends for life. And very open, and we're very happy with that. So people seeing runners in the city that afternoon after the race, you'll be welcomed, no doubt about that. But that's where a lot of the activity will be. It'll be towards the Rocke, Circular Quay, Barangaroo. Our central city area is like most major cities, right? It's no different than that. So you get big, tall glass buildings, you get some restaurants and cafes at street level, you have lots of retail, but you don't have a lot of what I would call the hotels, the pubs, the areas where people convene, standing on the sidewalk, having a drink, a coffee or whatever. You'll get that through the Rocks area. You'll get that down at Circular Quay. Down at Barangaroo, you'll get some of that as well. Where the Expo is a little bit away from that, down at Darling Harbour, and Darling Harbour right now is going through a total rebuild, refurbishment in a lot of those areas. So the convention centre down where the Expo is, it's easy to get to. Again, you could take transport. Most people can walk it. It's not a difficult walk to walk from the central business district down to the Expo. And there's bits and pieces down there as well. So it probably depends, Letty, what you're looking for. You know, we have our own Chinatown. Chinatown on a Sunday afternoon is always busy. The beaches are always busy. You could even head off to Bondi Sunday afternoon after the marathon and go down and have a nice meal down there looking at the waves coming in, have a coffee, have fish and chips on the beach if you wanted to. So there'll be plenty of options.
Very nice, very nice. And I forgot to ask, but let's talk about some other pre-race things such as shakeout runs and festivities, or I guess activations they call them now, kind of like they do in Boston, right? The Boston Expo is limited for vendors for shoes. So what happened was that there's going to be a bunch of pop-up stores. And I know that ASICS is in charge of the Expo in Sydney as well. So I'm assuming the competitors are probably also going to try to do something like that. Have you heard anything about that?
Look, I think they probably will. It's really worth noting that this is our first year as a major. So it's going to grow from here. There will be things that those that have been to London and to Boston and other major marathons would say, oh, it doesn't have this or it doesn't have that. So I'm not sure you'll see a lot of pop-up activity outside of what you're seeing in the Expo. I'm not sure you'll see that. I do know that Sydney Marathon are engaging local businesses to come on board and to encourage that. So I'm pretty sure we'll see some of that with local businesses. I do think it's going to be one of these things that grows over time. And going to be an organic growth, Letty, rather than just something that we go, oh my goodness, look at that, the whole town's on board. When I say Sydney side is pretty laid back and pretty easy going, that also means we tend to sleep in on a Sunday and it takes a lot to get us out of bed and to get us active. So what we'll see also is you'll see some areas of the marathon course that are heavily spectated and others where there won't be a lot of spectators. When we're on the far reaches around that 22 kilometre mark down Anzac Avenue, it'll be sparse with spectators in that area, and that'll grow over time. I know that'll grow over time. So there will be activity. I can be very transparent and say it's not going to be like Boston and the lead up to the marathon at this point. That will take time to grow in Sydney for sure. But I do know the team internally at Sydney Marathon are doing a great job on getting local businesses on board and becoming part of this. And I think as they see more and more runners coming in and more internationals, that will grow.
Perfect. And word on the street is that you are hosting a shakeout run. Is that something that we can mention here on the podcast, or is this something that's more for locals and friends of yours?
No, it's not for locals. The intent definitely is to do a shakeout run on the Saturday. I have to see what my schedule for the marathon itself is going to be on the Saturday as well to figure out a time. But Letty, yeah, that is the intention. And one of the things we did last year with the age group runners was to take them on the last 3 kilometres of the course, because I'm sure others will speak about the course and I'm sure you're interviewing others around the course itself. But if you wanted to have a Sydney equivalent for Heartbreak Hill, then that comes at about the 39.5 kilometre mark. In the Botanical Gardens, you're down the bottom by the ocean, by the harbour, and you're heading back up towards Macquarie Street. It's a tiny little rise for about 800 metres, or so it seems. And I can recall taking the age group runners over that part of the course last year before race day. And I said to them as we were going, look, it doesn't feel much now, but just wait till you run. This little piece here has more walkers than runners during the marathon. And sure enough, after the marathon itself, when we all caught up again, they said, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe how that felt after 39 kilometres. I said, yeah, it catches you. So the intent with the shakeout is to do the last 3 kilometres. It's a 5 kilometre shakeout from the Opera House steps and do the last 3 kilometres of the course, which gives you the experience of going up that little hill and then down into Macquarie Street towards the finish line, so you're aware of what's coming. So yes, the intent is to do a shakeout. I do have to check my own schedule on the Saturday to make sure what the timing would be. There is a 5 kilometre race going on in the Botanical Gardens, which is our mini marathon for Sydney on that Saturday, but that can all be worked in for sure.
Very good. All right, I'm looking forward to that one, and I will keep everyone posted. Now let's talk about that Sunday race and your loved ones that travel to Australia with you. Where is the best place for those spectators to see you, maybe once or twice on the course if possible?
Yeah, it's easy to see. It is easy to see everyone twice. It actually can also be those that are really quick on their feet when they look at the course map. They could actually see you 3 times. But if you want to see the runners twice and be guaranteed of seeing them twice, you would see them at the Rocks. So as they come back through the Rocks to head up through the city, the Rocks area, it's a party zone. So there are elements in the Sydney Marathon as you go around the course where there's entertainment zones. They've been set up deliberately. They have some form of entertainment going on. and they have a really good buzz going on. So the Rocks area is one place to see the runners coming through, and I think from memory that's about the 10 to 12 to 14k mark, something like that. And then you're only a 5-minute walk to the finish line, 10-minute walk to the finish line from there. So you could then go back up to Macquarie Street and see the runners coming down Macquarie Street. Now, you've got another option. You could go up into Oxford Street, which is about the 15 to 18 kilometre mark. At the top there, there's Pride Corner, which is just a wonderful, wonderful area. We have a wonderful community here, our gay community, and Pride Corner is exactly what it says. It's a lot of fun as well. So there's an area there with cafes, a lot of activity going on. You could see them going up Oxford Street and then out onto the course. You could see them coming back down Oxford Street if you wished, or you could walk down towards Hyde Park. So if you look at the maps, and that's what I'd say, take a good look at the maps, and you can see points where people can walk from one point to the next in plenty of time to see the runners coming through. And the transport for that in many cases is reasonable, but is more likely to be walking, given the street closures that we have in the city on Marathon Sunday.
Okay, perfect. So we'll put that in the notes as well. Thank you, Michael, so much. And is there anything else that you think is important to know for people traveling and have never been to Sydney and are doing this marathon?
Oh, absolutely. Come with an open mind. Look, leave all of the things behind of what goes on in marathons and what goes on at majors and yada, yada, yada. Just come in with an open mind. Be prepared for a really good, relaxing time. Don't get stressed about it. Make sure you sleep well. Make sure you prepare well. And the thing with the Sydney course, the one thing I would say is it's very much like Boston in the sense that, as we know with Boston, if you don't manage that course, it manages you, and it can be quite painful. Well, Sydney's the same. If you really train for Sydney in a way that works, you'll have a great time on course and you'll really enjoy it, and you'll probably set a PB, even though it is the hilliest course that we've got in the marathon majors at the moment. You will set a PB if you prepare for it. If you don't prepare for it and come in completely underprepared and still want to work hard, it's going to be painful. It's not a course that's going to give you anything easily if you're underprepared for it. So do be prepared. And what that means pre-race is when you're coming across, make sure you sleep well, make sure you eat well, make sure you hydrate well. But just come in with an open mind and be open to conversations with people. The more that you fold in a relaxed way with Sydney-siders and Australians in general, you will have a good time. Don't be shy, because Australians are not shy.
Very good. I'm looking forward to seeing all that, and I'm looking forward to running with you, Michael.
I can't wait to see a picture of that kangaroo and Letty together in that little embrace, knowing how much you love our kangaroos.
Thank you, Michael, for your insights and your tips. I can't wait to travel to Sydney myself now. And I'll also be sharing your Shakeout run. So again, follow our socials because I'm going to be posting that there. Now I'm going to share some of the ideas of what I want to see while in Sydney. I will be traveling solo. I have some friends that are going simultaneously, but I kind of really like a solo trip too, because it gives me that flexibility to just pop from one thing to the other. So what I really want to see is the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I don't know if I'm going to do the climb. I do want to see the Sydney Opera House, the Sydney Opera House Bar, Tauranga Zoo, which I'm going to travel to by ferry. I want to run by Bondi Beach, Manly Beach. I also want to see Koji Beach. My hotel is going to be close to Hyde Park, so I'm going to definitely check that out. I also would like to see the Royal Botanic Gardens. I want to hang out in the Rocks. I do want to see the fish market and the Queen Victoria building, and maybe I'll hit the Australian Museum. Of course, again, if you have more time and are excited to leave the city, there's tons of stuff to do, and there are amazing websites to check out for that. But that concludes my video of everything you need to know about the Sydney Marathon. If you have any additional tips or you feel like I forgot something, be sure to post that in the comments below or send me a message. I am super excited to go to Sydney, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.